Troubled Navy Sailor Story, a Pwalpar story. Greetings, viewers. My name is Walter, aka Pwalpar, around various social media sources on the internet, especially here on YouTube, where I host the Pwalpar channel. Occasionally, I take a notion I'll sit and share a few stories with my many viewers. Most of my stories come from various times during my 78 years here on this planet. Today I share this memory that came to my mind from my distant past. I take you back to my U.S. Navy days during the mid-1960s. This true story details some of the memories of a troubled fellow sailor. I'm 78 years old now, so if he's still around, he would be in his 90s because he was older than me. We both served aboard the USS Jacana, MSC 193, a coastal minesweeper. His name. I would share an old photo from my Navy album and one of myself as well that was taken at a Jacana crew beer party at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, when we got a break from sometimes months at sea with no liberty or breaks. We did indulge in a bit of drinking. This particular beer party was on a remote area of Guantanamo Bay, Cuba naval base. There was a couple of clubs one could acquire a beer or two on the base, but there wasn't exactly any town or any place you could really go in Guantanamo other than personal base housing and stuff there. The entire base was located in a valley area surrounded by mountains, and the perimeter was guarded by U.S. Marines. I got a bit off track there, so back to my story. I mentioned that Dennis was troubled. I suppose that is the main reason I remember him. His biggest problem apparently was drinking. That often got him in trouble, and more than once, I and a few other sailors did the best we could to pitch in and keep him out of trouble. So in today's story, I will relate a few of those times. These occurrences I mentioned in no particular order. I should mention that when we were at sea running the ship, it was strictly a job. There was no relief from the daily grind involved in doing our jobs efficiently. So when at sea, this was a fairly squared away electricians make petty officer. In port, however, he was often a handful to deal with. I begin with that particular beer party. We had been at sea several weeks patrolling the coast of Cuba. We put in a Gitmo, that's short for Guantanamo, for rest and supplies. A big beer party was planned, and a big stack of cases of beer and soft drinks were acquired for the party. We loaded aboard a Navy bus and were taken to a park-like area in a remote part of Guantanamo Bay. We had plenty of hot dogs and hamburgers and various liquid refreshments. Some of us went swimming as well. I recall I had taken my scuba gear along and I dove for a little while, but we drank as well. We had a good time, and by the evening we boarded the bus back to the ship. A day or so later we were back at sea patrolling again. I can't pin this first bit of trouble on, but I bet my bottom dollar it was him that did the deed. We had 8 or 9 cases of beer left over from the beer party, and it had been brought aboard the ship to save for a future date. It was stored somewhere near the captain's quarters. While we were at sea, someone broke into and drank some of it or removed some of it, and the captain discovered the pilfering that had occurred. We were called to quarters and were standing at attention with the old man, slang for a captain, the old man, walking back and forth demanding for the guilty party to step forward and admit the theft. No one stepped forward, So the old man said, "Parks, you and Jones step forward." And we did. He said, "Y'all throw those cases of beer in the ocean immediately." And we did so without hesitation. Now you might think they would sink, but we found out cases of beer will float on the surface. So in short order, all those cases of beer were bobbing up and down in the waves. Whereupon the old man took an M1 carbine rifle and commenced to shooting the cases of beer until they were all sank down somewhere near Davy Jones's locker. Davy Jones' locker is an 18th century nautical idiom for the bottom of the sea, serving as a euphemism for the final resting place for drowned sailors, sunken ships, and lost cargo. "Y'all have had your last beer party," the captain said, and we were dismissed to return to our daily duties. This happened in San Juan, Puerto Rico. I believe that's where we were. I was strolling down the street on a bright sunny day. I don't even remember where I was going. It was a ritzy neighborhood, primarily occupied by tourists, and there was gambling casinos nearby, and I was passing by an open-air restaurant, the kind where tables and seating is open to the outside, the high-class type of place where ordinary sailors are not likely to have been able to afford to eat there. A restaurant manager saw me passing by and came out and flagged me down. "Hey, sailor, can you help me a second?" he said. I said, "Surely, try if I can. What can I do for you?" "Tell me if you know this sailor in here at our bar," he said. "There's hundreds of sailors. Maybe I know it, maybe I don't." I followed the man inside, and who was standing in the bar? Himself. He was 3 sheets to the wind, had latched on to a very pretty blonde hostess hand with both of his hands. Basically, he was holding hands with her and had no intention of releasing her. He was sort of cooing and was telling her how beautiful she was and that he was in love with her. "I love you," he was saying. The poor girl was mortified. "Yes, I know this idiot," I replied. I pried him loose from the young lady, practically dragging him to the curb. "You're going to wind up in the brig or the Puerto Rican jail." I hailed a cab and returned him to the ship, marched him down to the ladder into the berthing compartment, shoved him into his rack, and he was out cold by then. A fellow sailor asked, "What the heck did he do now?" "Oh," I replied, "he's into harassing women now. He's trying to give the Navy a bad name." The Jacana, being a small ship, had a benefit that you don't often see on bigger ships. We had what is known as an open galley. During mealtime, the cooks prepared the regular meals. If we missed a meal or came in late one night, we could raid the refrigerator and get stuff to eat, sandwiches and such. There's a colorful term used in the Navy, or it was back then, when referring to lunch meat, but I declined to use it here on this format. Many fellow sailors will know the term of what I'm talking about, but I digress. I was discussing Dennis. We came aboard ship late one night. Some of us had been on liberty and wanted something to eat. I walked into the galley, slopped some mayo on a piece of bread, got some lunch meat out from put it on there and made me a sandwich. He was standing there peeling a potato. I suppose he was trying to cook some French fries. He had some already sliced and was almost done. Another sailor reached over and playfully took one of Dennis's raw French fries. Dennis had a potato in his left hand and a 4 to 5 inch paring knife in his right hand. Without hesitating, Dennis stuck the sharp-pointed knife into the sailor's right butt cheek, and it went in at least an inch. Then Dennis kept slicing his potato. The sailor was wearing one of his white summer uniforms, and it was soon evident that his trousers were turning red with blood, and the sailor yelled, "Ouch!" in pain. This was, at that time, a second-class petty officer, and I was but only a third-class petty officer. The sailor immediately went in search of the hospital corpsman for some stitches and painkiller. That kind of foolishness cannot be ignored. I immediately went to the officer of the day and put on report. I would have been failing in my duties as a petty officer had I not done so. This had on many occasions expressed his hatred and dislike for the captain of the ship. I'm certain the captain didn't have any fond feelings for him either. The next day, Dennis was hauled before the captain to stand a captain's mast. A captain's mast is basically a trial where the captain is the judge and the jury, and he can decide your fate. He can dish out fairly strict punishment, including demoting you in rank, docking your pay. If needed, he can send you to the brig as well as put you on bread and water. I have seen the captain completely expel someone from the ship permanently, so he got a lot of power. This was demoted from E6 to E1, fireman recruit, the lowest naval rank. This was apparently totally humiliated and stomped around the ship several days with a very bad attitude. I should have realized that there was more to come from this, and it happened quicker than I expected. In the Navy at that time, we had movies to watch on a movie projector. I believe it was 16 millimeter. The movies were shared from ship to ship. I was one of the few on board who knew how to thread the films into the projector and show the movies, which usually came in 3 separate big reels of film. We were in port at Gitmo at that time. It was probably 9 p.m. at night. Around 8 or 10 sailors were on the forecastle deck, spelled F-O-R-E-C-A-S-T-L-E. I had the projector running, and we were watching a John Wayne movie. On the projector screen, I noticed the captain when he came on deck. He pulled up a seat and was sitting watching the movie with us. No one expected what was about to happen. We were all silent and listening to the movie. The forecastle deck in that area is the bow, close to the bow forward of the pilot house. We heard this yell real loud. He apparently had completely gone berserk. "Take that, USOB," Dennis yelled. Dennis was up on the bridge. We all turned and looked up towards the bridge, just in time to watch
your chair, Captain.
throw the captain's prize chair into the bay adjacent to the ship. If you're not aware, a captain's chair is a big, expensive-looking chair the captain can sit in and observe the ocean all around when we're doing maneuvers and entering and leaving port. Basically, it's like a throne for the captain. The ship's captain's name at that time was Lieutenant Commander Niles Berry. I looked back at the captain's face, and it wasn't a happy look he was giving. I would always remember that night, but my memory eludes me at this point because I don't recall what his fate was. I'm thinking he would probably dishonorably discharge, but honestly I do not remember. That's my story today about the troubled sailor. Appreciate you listening today, and your comments are most welcome. It's Pwalpar, wishing everyone well.